Yeah. So we started putting forth arguments in favor of preserving the traditions, preserving the families, preserving the culture, etc., etc. So again, we also saw how um, first we draw a conclusion and then give arguments in favor of those conclusions. So Arjuna had already concluded that fighting was not good because he didn't want to fight. He didn't want to fight with people who were his near and dear ones. And then, as an afterthought, he started supplying the arguments. And this is the one of the classic cases of confabulation. We had discussed that uh, quite a few classes earlier, wherein we supply logic and argument after the decision has been taken, and not the other way around, arriving at a decision through logic and arguments. No. And we do it most of the times. And same thing we saw with Arjuna. And we also saw the larger picture was that it was not a personal fight. It was not a fight for kingdom. It was not a fight for comfort, luxuries, or personal gains. It was a fight for dharma. There were adharmis on the other side. They had to be punished. And because they were the rulers or the ruling community, so the only way to punish them was through a war. Had it been a war for kingdom, Krishna wouldn't have become a messenger and asked for 5 villages or a village with 5 houses. So it was not a war for kingdom. It was a war for a purpose. And the purpose was establishing the dharma. So that's the background of the Mahabharata, and from there the Bhagavad Gita starts. Then another point, generally they say that the Bhagavad Gita is actually for the sannyasis or for a particular class of people who have withdrawn themselves and their hormones have, those activity hormones have almost dried up. And they are the ones who will be able to grasp the essence, the purport of the Bhagavad Gita. Well, if you look at this whole Bhagavad Gita, and if I can recall some of the words of Swami Vidyananda Giriji, he's no more. He was the main person of Kailash Ashram, Rishikesh, and he had come to our ashram at Anikatti. Our Puji Swamiji had invited. So he gave an introductory talk on the Bhagavad Gita. He took 5 classes because he came for some 3 days. So he made one interesting remark. He said that people say the Bhagavad Gita is for the sadhus, sannyasis and all. It's not for the grihasthas. But do you know one thing? Bhagavad Gita was for Arjuna, mainly for Arjuna. And Arjuna was no ordinary Grihastha because he was married to more than one wife. And the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord himself, Lord Krishna, he himself was a super Grihastha because he had some 1600 or something, that figure, some 1600 wives. So a super Grihastha teaching the Gita to an extraordinary Grihastha. So all these are bunkam stories. Just people make conclusions without actually going into the detail or going into the facts. Second thing, if you go into the Bhashyam, sorry, or the commentary by Adi Sankaracharya. So in his introduction, he mentions that the whole spiritual pursuit, or he didn't use the word spiritual pursuit, he said Vedokta Dharma. Vedokta Dharma means dharma as quoted or told by the Vedas are of two types. Pravritti Lakshana and Nivritti Lakshana. Means what? So the Vedokta Dharma are of two types. One type is characterized by Pravritti. Pravritti means activity, action, going out, doing something, propagating, etc. And the other type is Nivritti Lakshana, which is characterized by withdrawal, introvertedness, going inside, withdrawing from active life, etc. And both are promoted by the Vedas. Depending on the temperament of the person, either the genetic temperament, inbuilt one, which stays throughout life, or even the genes blossom at different periods of time. There may be children who are introverted, quite introverted, but then as they grow up, they start becoming slightly extroverted. And the remaining of their life, they remain extroverted. So it's all what is there inside us, the genetic factors which work through us. Whether we like it or not, it works. And it also depends upon the uh, mm, the age of the person. Even as per Ayurveda, they divide the whole human lifespan in three parts. They say, suppose if a person is to live for 100 years, then first 33 years, the kapha dosha is prominent. Then the next 33 years, the pitta dosha is prominent. And the last 33 years, the vata dosha is prominent. So as you grow in age, your prakriti, the prakriti of the body also changes, which we all know. I mean, if you go by the scientific model of the modern science, they will say in a different way. Ayurveda says in a different way, but it is like that. So hormones, the chemicals, the secretions inside the body, they change with time. And as per the changes, the elephant in us, it behaves in a different way, and the rider has to go along with it. So coming back to the point, it could be, a person could be with a pravritti temperament. I'm using the Sanskrit word pravritti. Pravritti means action mode, doing mode, uh, extroverted mode. Or the person could be in a nivritti temperament. Nivritti temperament means withdrawal, being introverted, being introverted. Why? There's some disturbance. Okay. So all this, whether it's a pravritti temperament or a nivritti temperament, Bhagavad Gita is applicable to both of them. Lord Krishna taught the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, who was a pravritti temperament person, who was a doer, who was accumulating weapons throughout his life for this war, and who was a winner, fighter. So it is for a pravritti temperament. But that doesn't mean Bhagavad Gita doesn't address those people who have a nivritti temperament, who are withdrawn or going into a withdrawal mode. Even for them, the Bhagavad Gita is there. But as I told you a few classes back, Bhagavad Gita is both a Yoga Shastra and a Moksha Shastra. Moksha Shastra is, it talks about moksha. I'm not using the word salvation because salvation has a little different meaning, but it is, moksha is closer to salvation. So it talks about moksha, and it also talks about the means to that moksha. And what is moksha? We'll touch very briefly. Freedom from sadness. That's how we proposed our talks. How to be happy, how to gain more happiness, or how to remove the obstacles to happiness. Moksha talks double negative, freedom from sadness. It doesn't talk about happiness, but it talks about freedom from sadness, freedom from sorrow. And what kind of a freedom? Not a temporary freedom, but a lasting freedom from sorrow. And of course, a lasting freedom from sorrow, definitely one wants within this life while living. Of course, there were people, and we discussed that last time, as that Yuval Harari, he quoted, that a few centuries back, people were focused about life after death because they didn't give so much importance to the present day life due to whatever reasons, due to the challenges in this life. But in the current century, the whole focus has shifted, and we talk about life here and now rather than life after death. So whichever way we take, moksha addresses both life after death and life before death. And moksha, as we define it, it is freedom from sorrow, a lasting freedom from sorrow. So lasting freedom from sorrow is the end goal. So in that way, everybody is a mumukshu, whether one likes it or not. And the means to attain that moksha, the freedom from sorrow, the lasting freedom from sorrow. So what are the means? That is what we are discussing, and we are taking help of the Bhagavad Gita in telling us how we can achieve a lasting freedom from sorrow. Why this double negative? Why not gaining happiness? Why freedom from sorrow? Well, there is a reason. And that this reason also we had already discussed, if you can recall, some 5 or 6 classes earlier. Any stimulus which either disturbs our equilibrium, we have a certain equilibrium, mental makeup, mental equilibrium, where either we feel whatever level of comfort or happiness, everyone has one level. Any stimulus which disturbs this equilibrium either causes extra happiness or extra sorrow. If the stimulus is negative, it causes sorrow. If it is a positive stimulus, it causes happiness. But the effect is temporary. Over the long run, what the psychologists have found through their studies, that people tend to go back to their equilibrium. And that equilibrium is decided by the genes of that person. It's inbuilt. Okay. So, and then if we talk about gaining happiness, then it means some stimulus which disturbs us and which gives us some kick, some happiness experience, and then it dies down. So we talk about freedom from sorrow. Freedom from sorrow is what we call moksha, where we are in our natural state of equilibrium and we are comfortable in our condition. Okay. So in that sense, everybody is a mumukshu. And how to attain that moksha, what practices one has to do, that we are discussing. We have already seen the pitfalls or the limitations which we inherently have. So unless we take help of a scripture or guidance from, unless we take guidance from a scripture or a person, we will be in our default state. And what is that default state? Default means the natural state. The natural state is what we saw. The elephant has its own weaknesses and it is already programmed, and reprogramming it, making it relearn the things requires external help. So Bhagavad Gita helps us in that direction. It is a yoga shastra in that way. And because it is dealing with people of both the temperaments, the pravritti type means the extroverted type, and the nivritti type means the introverted type. So it addresses and it prescribes solutions for both the types. How to go about it? If I am quite active, I am restless, full of activity, fine, I can still be mumukshu. And if I am introverted, withdrawn, do not want to act, then there are prescriptions for such type also. Now, we start with the second chapter. The first chapter we have already seen. Rajesh ji, could you please share the shlokas?
Give me 1 second, okay?
Yeah. So, in the meantime, we will summarize what we have discussed so far. It's important. 4 things we have to keep in mind. Out of four, first two are the Bhagavad Gita is both Moksha Shastra, means it talks about moksha, and a Yoga Shastra, means it talks about the methodology of attaining that moksha. Moksha we have already defined, freedom from sorrow, a lasting freedom from sorrow. So these are two things. Then another thing, Bhagavad Gita addresses, while discussing the means to achieve moksha, it addresses both types of people of both temperaments. The pravritti type means the extroverted type, and the nivritti type means the introverted type. So it is labeling that Bhagavad Gita is only for the introverted, only for the withdrawn, only for the old aged people, only for the sannyasis, only for this is not correct. Nor it is correct to say that Bhagavad Gita is only for the persons who are in action. It only talks about karma. No, even that is not correct. It addresses both the types. Okay. So in the first chapter, we saw Arjuna had given his arguments, why fighting is not correct, why it will disturb the families. People will be, the families will be orphaned, the children will be orphaned, only ladies will remain, all the men folk, able-bodied people will be gone. And the families, the disturbed families will have disturbed traditions. The traditions won't be carried forward to the next generation. And that's how the society gets into a dark age. And all those are very much valid arguments. But then we also discussed that Arjuna was missing the larger picture. And the larger picture was the tradition which he was talking, the traditions and the traditional flow of knowledge he was talking of, all of them were of lesser importance compared to the basic dharma, because the rulers had become adharmis. Adharmis means on the wrong side. And if the rulers are on the wrong side of dharma, then all this talk of tradition and all will not work. We also saw how the basic dharma rule are on the top in the hierarchy compared to the other functional dharma rules. And we also talked how the preamble, like in India, the preamble of the constitution is the most sacred document. It's a one-page document. That document guides the remaining constitution. So changing the preamble requires two-thirds majority of both the houses of parliament. Whereas all other types of amendments in the acts, they require simple majority. Why? Because the preamble enjoys the highest respect and priority, and it has the maximum force. Yeah. Whereas the other acts of parliament, they keep changing according to the time. So similarly, the basic dharma of protecting people, protecting the modesty of women, etc., these cannot be compromised at the cost of protecting the tradition of families. They come lower in hierarchy compared to the basic dharma. So basic dharma, they don't change over time, whereas the functional dharma rules, they also have importance, but they do change over time. And Arjuna was mixed up. He gave importance to the dynamic, the functional dharma rules more than the basic dharma rules. And that's where the confusion started. And that's where Lord Krishna had to address it. Although he didn't use these words like basic dharma rule and functional dharma rule, etc. But this meaning gets implied. It's an implied meaning we get from the Bhagavad Gita, because more than 5 or 6 occasions he asked Arjuna to get up and fight. So, chapter 2, Sanjaya Uvacha, Tam tatha kripaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantamidam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. Arjuna, who was in sorrow, to that Arjuna, Lord Krishna spoke these words. What were his words? Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupasthitam Anaryajishtam Asvargyam Akirti Karam Arjuna. Okay. Klaibyam Masmagamah Partha Naitatvayupapadyate. What is that next? It's getting hidden. Klaibyam Masmagamah Partha Naitatvayupapadyate. Then, do we have the? Can we see? Correct. Okay. So Krishna didn't say, oh dear, what has happened to you? Don't worry. If you don't want to fight, it's okay. We can understand. These were not his words. Krishna was very ruthless when he answered this. Some problem? Let it be in a smaller size, because it causes disturbance. Okay. Yeah, let it be. This is enough. So, Krishna didn't say soothing words to Arjuna. In fact, he started with a bombardment. He simply said, come on, Arjuna, what has happened to you? How can you do like this? It doesn't suit your stature. You are talking something which is anaryam, which is not a person, a good person, worthy of a good person. Klaibyam masmagamah partha. Don't behave like a transgender person. Just get up and fight. It doesn't suit you. Okay. Why he could say that? Because all this while Arjuna was ready to fight. And if in fact he had asked Krishna to put the chariot in between the two armies. So they were totally in fighting mode. And suddenly, seeing his near and dear ones, the emotional self overpowered him, and he started talking differently. And therefore, Krishna had to shake him up, ask him, come on, get out of this. It doesn't suit you. And start fighting. Can we go into the next slokas, please? Yeah. Then I'm skipping few slokas. Finally, Arjuna said, Karpanya doshopahata svabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yachreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. So Arjuna also realized, he said that I am overcome with grief, and due to that grief, I'm talking like a faint-hearted person. And I'm totally confused. Dharma sammudha chetaha. Dharma sammudha chetaha means one who is confused, one who's chetas. Chetas means the thinking capability, the rational capability. So that capability is totally confused. Sammudha means confusion, thoroughly confused. Yat shreya syat nishchitam bruhi tanme sishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. So tell me, what is shreyas for me? What is good for me? That you tell me. Sishyah teham, aham te shishyah. I am your disciple, your student, and shadhimam tvam prapannam. I take refuge in you. You tell me what is good for me. So we are now introduced to this concept of Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas means what I like, what as an individual I like. Okay, due to whatever my mental makeup. And Shreyas means what is good for me. Now, what is good for me and what I like, they could be aligned with each other, or they could be mutually exclusive. If we recall our metaphor of the elephant and the rider, if what the elephant likes is according to the rider, it is right, then they can join hands and the journey is very smooth. But the elephant sometimes may like something, whereas the rider knows it is not good for the elephant. And there is where the problem comes. So I like something, and if it is good for me, there is no problem. But if I like something and it is not good for me, then all the problems come. And then there is a conflict. My liking is programmed. What is good for me could be programmed, need not be. And that is where this this problem comes. There are spiritual pursuits, spiritual theories, where they say, delve deep within yourself, follow your heart, just do what you want, enjoy that freedom. This is all bullshit. Why? Because if I follow my heart, and if I am a trained jihadi terrorist, do you know what will come from within my heart? Kill all the infidels, all the kafirs. And I'll do it. So just follow your heart because it sounds good. So there are people who would like to hear that, and they will go for such pursuits. But whether what the heart says is correct or not, is good or not, for myself and for the entire society, who will decide? My heart cannot decide. And then, the consciousness within yourself will speak out. It will guide you. This is another bunkam. You require a lot of refinement for years together before you can depend upon your inner voice. what we call as the gut feeling. When the gut is already a gutter with all the dirt inside, food-wise also, thought-wise also, how can you rely on that, those thoughts? How can you give that freedom? If you give that freedom, if you give freedom to children all over the world, follow your heart and do what you want, more than half of the students, the children will never go to the school. If you go by the statistics of the whole world. So follow your heart is fine, but first purify your heart. And to purify your heart, it requires a lot of practice, a lot of things. So you keep purifying your heart, and then you can follow your heart, and not just follow your heart, which is untrained, which goes by animal instincts. Such following will lead to disaster. So this is where the word Shreyas and Preyas come in, the concept of Shreyas and Preyas come in, and they become important. For Preyas to be aligned with Shreyas, if it is already inbuilt in us, we say it's a Purva Punya. Purva Punya means some good acts of previous lives so that I don't have to struggle. My tendencies are, which are good for everybody. But due to some papa karmas means wrong actions of the past, which I didn't know, I may start liking things which are not good for me, which are not good for the society. That is where we need help, we need guidance, and we need practices. And all that is talked about in the Bhagavad Gita. So those things we will see further in the next class. And before we finish the class, I invite questions from people. And already I have summarized that part. 4 things there. What was that? Yoga Shastra, Moksha Shastra. Gita is both Yoga Shastra and Moksha Shastra. Gita is for both the Pravritti type people and the Nivritti type people. Okay. And I won't say Pravritti type people, because people also change with time. So Gita is for both Pravritti types and Nivritti types. Then we also, at the end, we saw Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas is what I like. Shreyas is what is good for me. Okay. So these 4 + 2, 6 concepts we will keep in mind in this class. So it's open for questions.
Should I stop sharing now? Great.
Yeah, please stop sharing. Yes, please, viewers, ask questions. That helps. Or you can discuss. If no questions, you can at least comment. Share your thoughts. What do you think? You want to add something? You may not agree with few things. Even that is fine. That can be discussed.
Swamiji, I like the definition of moksha today, right? Like moksha is from the sorrow, right? Like elimination of sorrow, freedom from the sorrow in a long term. But it is for this life as well as the next life. That is important point, right?
Right.
So normally people think it is afterlife.
Yeah, because that was the
we always connect moksha with that.
Yeah, that is even that is true. We are not denying that. But if I'm not interested in life after death, which is my present day orientation, personally speaking, if you ask me personally, I never had thoughts about life after death.
Same for me.
Even now, it doesn't matter so much what will happen after death. While living, what is happening, let me focus on that.
No, so I like this definition. That's a good.
Yeah, it addresses both.
Yeah, it addresses both.
Yeah.
Guruji, I also have a question.
Yes, please ask.
Guruji, pranam. I just want to ask you that in case of this prayers and shreyas, if the alignment is not there, so can that will be considered as abnormal or what?
No, it's totally normal.
And what can we do to make it minimum?
Yeah, I understand.
Gap.
Yeah, I'll answer. Conflict between shreyas and prayers is universal. In fact, if there were no conflicts, we don't require Bhagavad Gita. And in fact, why this class? Why this discussion? Because then everything is automatically all right, and there's nothing need to be discussed. Firstly, seeing the conflict between, there is a question, a written question. Can you please read? I'll come to that. Somebody has typed it. I'll come to that. So first is recognizing that Shreyas is different from prayers as an individual in my case. So that is the first requirement, that what I like is not good for me. This I have to discover. How will I discover? That is why in the Upanishads itself, in the Vedas itself, Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. What does it say? And it doesn't say once. It repeats some 9 times. So when something is repeated 8 times, 9 times in the Vedas, that means you have to take it on the face value. You cannot make any interpretation, not allowed at all. So what it says, Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. Na pramaditavyam means don't ignore. These things cannot be ignored, cannot be overlooked. What? Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam. These 2 things, studying and discussing or teaching. If you have students, then you can teach. If you don't have students, then you discuss with your colleagues. So this is a daily duty of every individual, studying and discussing. Of course, other than your mundane things, even they are to be studied and discussed, but the Vedas or the scriptures are to be studied and discussed daily. That daily studying and discussing makes you aware of so many things, because you won't be reading only one thing and discussing only same thing all the days and over the years. You will keep moving further and further and further. So that opens up your mind, makes you educated about what is good for you. What you like, you need not study. That you already know. For that, you don't need a scripture. But what is good for you has to be told by somebody who is neutral, who has no interest in you, or who is not your beneficiary. And the scriptures are given that status, that why will they cheat you? Why will the scripture cheat you? Or why will they be beneficiary from by teaching you something? So that study helps one open up. It's like learning process. Even a law of land, you cannot say, because I didn't know, I should be forgiven for any crime. No, you must know, as an adult, you must know the rules and you have to follow the rules. Similarly, what is good for you is knowing that is your responsibility. And once you know it, then comes the second half of the question, how to go about it. That will be discussed later on in this Bhagavad Gita itself. Not once. It is being repeated n number of times from n different angles, so that one doesn't have any excuse that how I'm helpless. I know there's a conflict between what I like and what is good for me, and I'm unable to do anything. No, there are ways. What was the question? Can you please share, Rajesh? Your voice is not there.
I can read that actually for
Yeah,
you.
please. Yeah.
So why was Arjuna labeled a transgender? In this context, it seems as an insult to Arjuna.
It seems the person who is questioning didn't attend the last two classes. Did you? I need your answer, please. Hello?
He just need a clarification.
The clarification was there in the last two classes.
Right.
Because unless you know the entire background of the Mahabharata, which we have been discussing, in fact, I myself said that if you straight away jump into the second chapter or the first chapter without knowing the Mahabharata, you will say Lord Krishna was the biggest culprit. He instigated Arjuna to fight. Although Arjuna was a peaceful, peace-loving person, right? Didn't I say that?
Yeah.
The last class and last to last class. Arjuna was a peace-loving person. He was sane. He understood fighting is not good. It doesn't bring any good to anybody. And Krishna said, no, you should fight. So Arjuna should be the teacher and Krishna should learn from Arjuna. That is when we have a limited picture. We don't know the whole background. The whole background was this fight was not for personal gains. Second thing, the persons who were on the other side of the army, I mean the opponents, they were adharmis. They have done crimes, series of crimes. And the biggest crime was like right in the court of the king, the princess was dishonored, disrobed. At least they attempted to do it. And if the princess of a country is not safe in the court of people, of able people, what to talk of any other lady, a common lady of that kingdom? That kingdom needs destruction, doesn't deserve to remain. Okay? And like we have such groups in the world also. I am not taking names and being specific. There is only one way. One has to destroy them. You cannot make them understand things, because wherever they will be, they will bring disaster. There will be crimes, rapes, murders, and whimsical laws. So there is no solution other than destruction. And Arjuna, who was ready to fight, suddenly changed his mind and became weak, faint-hearted. He was the person who could even fight Lord Shiva to get before getting the Pashupati Astra. Lord Shiva gave him. He wanted to test whether Arjuna is capable or not. So Lord Shiva came in the form of some local tribal chieftain and fought with Arjuna. And Arjuna, the fight went on and on and on for days together. Of course, there were breaks in between, but it continued. And finally, Lord Shiva became very happy with him and gave the Pashupati Astra to him. So Arjuna was of that type who could fight Lord Shiva. And of course, he helped Indra in the wars against demons and all. He was not an ordinary person. And suddenly he behaved like a meek person in front of ordinary mortals. So the natural reaction of Lord Krishna was, why are you behaving like a transgender? Transgender was a word generally they used to give that time. Maybe even nowadays it is there. Those who are who do not have that manliness, that that zeal to fight face to face. Okay, so that is the term they used to have.
Guruji, maybe the Lord is using this term to shake up
Yeah.
Arjuna's.
The spirit is to shake up Arjuna, and no other spirit. Yeah, no other thing. Yeah. Anything else? Otherwise, please conclude here with the Shanti mantra.
Okay.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.